Legacy Maker, the All Sports Network.
Welcome to Commonwealth Sports Talk, Women in Sports, Episode 5, with your hosts, Joe Dillard Jr. and Lamonte Thomas. This week's special guest, Ashley Orr, former NC State track star and Deep Run High School legend in Virginia.
Welcome to Commonwealth Sports Talk. I'm your host, Joe D, coming back at it again with another episode for Women in Sports. We are bringing you a great episode in regards to us continuing to push for women in sports, as we are now outside of the month of March, which is Women's History Month. And I hope we did our best job of showing our support for women in sports. As we continue on, we are bringing on Ashley Orr out of Deep Run High School in the Richmond area, who also attended North Carolina State University. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. This is brought to you by Grind and Pray, Legacy Maker Sports, and the cast of Commonwealth Sports Talk. Let's do it.
Yeah, so we're going to start at the very beginning. So we're talking about Deep Run, first track meet where you win first place. Take me through if that was like a moment of like euphoria, or did you have a drive in you to do track, or were you just good at it and it led you to things? How was that?
Well, I think I kind of knew I was good at it early on, but I actually played basketball first. So I didn't know until I played basketball, when you can get lobbed across the court and they're expecting you to get there. I was that person that got there. So I guess I just knew from that I was technically fast. I think it started settling in probably when I actually went to Thomasdale first for a year, my freshman year. So, when we had made it to state for like the relays and things like that, I think everyone was really like congratulating me, like, hey, you got us to states. We haven't been in so long. And I was just like, whoa, me as a freshman. So that was where it kind of hit it for me. And then, from there, it was just to focus on how to get better. So that's how I changed schools.
Nice. That's awesome. So that initial feeling of having like upperclassmen welcome you into a sport, that is a gratifying feeling.
Yeah, because you kind of know you're doing something. People are already years ahead of you and they've been trying. And it's just like, we haven't gotten here till you came along. So it's just like, damn, I helped y'all get there. That's nice, Yeah. So that's when I kind of really settled in. And then I think from there it was just like confidence.
It's a special area for track being in the region, right? Like you see it during the season, but you definitely see it when you get to that regional meet, right? You see Deep Run, you see Atlee, you see the Thomasdales, right? And you always know that the competition is on. What is it like being a part of this area? Like when you get to Arthur Ashe, you can feel it in the air, like it's on, right?
Yeah. Well, there and sports backers. Sports backers a bigger one. Yeah. So, I mean, it's actually competition though. So it's not, regionals are never easy here, like ever. You know what I mean? So I don't know if people don't know that, but it's not like a breeze to get to states. Regionals is already pretty difficult. I mean, just going against Queen alone, permitted, like just that was already a big thing. I mean, field events was probably like very, I guess, contributing to like your overall team score. Like it was very serious there. So to actually have very good competition, because from what I remember, like a lot of people out of the region went to a lot of like D1 schools, off track stuff. So
yeah, that track game is real.
It is. He's frozen.
He'll be all right.
Oh.
Yeah, really? I'm here, man. I'm here.
You're here.
My goodness.
You're good now. You're not frozen.
That's what's up.
You know, they're never like this, man. I'm telling you, there's something about today.
Yeah, today is the poltergeist, bro.
That's all right. We're good. Well, you can't say you're nervous anymore, Ash, so don't worry about don't worry about us anymore over here. So but I'll continue and go right on into it. So we're going to talk more specifically, like for women. When did you realize, or who might have been some of your role models in track when you started pushing for that goal that you looked up to? And how did you see yourself when you became a star in your high school days and early college days at North Carolina State? Like, how did you look back and have to realize how much of a mentor you were to those maybe looking up to you?
Yeah, definitely. Just, you know, also going along with like AAU track and, you know, summer track, things like that, and passing on what you know. But, you know, personally for me, when I was growing up and running, I mean, especially around like 13, that's when I started, you know, taking it seriously. But I looked up to Marion Jones, of course, and then the whole, the whole scandal came about. So that makes you, you know,
She's still a great athlete.
For someone like me who looked up to her, like I was actually disappointed. Like you get these authentically. So, I mean, she was definitely a person. When I first made it to indoor nationals, we had a couple of professional athletes there. And I remember seeing, I really want to say his name is Carl, but I can't think of his last name right now. But just to even see them run alone, like that was a major thing. Like, you're running in the same meets we are.
Yep. It's
crazy when you think. So there were definitely a lot of people to look up to. I would certainly say, even in my own 4 years in high school, Queen was always one of them. And there's another, Francine. She's always good too. So, I mean, those are like top 2 VA. I mean, we have a lot of people that come out of here, but for me, those are like, you know, ones that I look up to when I was younger.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Like we try to bring all aspects of the women in sports piece from it, and that's all joyful. Were there like any times that you felt like you were slighted being a woman or anything of that magnitude?
See, like I personally didn't come across things like that. I mean, I always actually remember being very friendly with like officials at every meet, honestly, because they would often coach the same ones. So, you know, for things that are currently going on, like, you know, with the women's NCAA and the men's and how those are 2 totally different aspects. Like in college, personally didn't, you know, at NC State, we shared the same facility as the basketball players. The only people who had like separate facilities for us were the basketball, or like women's basketball had their own place, but they kind of shared that with wrestling, you know? So like really only football. So technically for us, I didn't have to, you know, luckily I'd say didn't have to experience anything like that.
That's a shout out to NC State then, and their progressional ways of having everybody feeling unified and being a part of one unit. And that's not being segregated by men, women, or one sport or the next sport. It's all sports and student athletes that are at that school. So that's an awesome experience.
Yeah, it was. I will say everyone was, treated fairly. Something that was a little odd when I went there, different sponsors. I'll say I've never, seen that or experienced that. Like for 1 year, we had Reebok as a sponsor and everyone else was Adidas, and, the basketball teams are Nike. So it was so weird to me how that worked out that way.
That money train. Always follow the money train.
Yeah. Well, what does it mean for you now to see people like Renee Montgomery, the WNBA player now, part owner of a WNBA team, and all the big things that women are doing in sports now? Like, what do you think about when you see that kind of stuff?
I mean, I think that's awesome. And a lot more females are, taking up sports and not really afraid to like I've seen so many younger people, like elementary, middle school, what have you, that legitimately look up to a lot of athletes and want to be that and don't see any shame in it. I feel like sometimes it can be thought of like really a masculine thing to do. You like sports. So I think it's pretty awesome that they're setting the example.
Absolutely. Is they're living a life where you can see it so you can be it. So, that's a real good thing. We always like shedding a light on that.
So Title IX is awesome. Everybody is familiar with Title IX. As I continue to educate the audience, it's got to be the same number of men's scholarships to women's scholarships. Sports got to be treated equal. I think that should be all the way down to elementary. However, do you think there's something that could upgrade in the form of a Title IX? Do you think that there's something from your perspective that might be like an advancement on top of the Title IX, like to continue the ball rolling?
Yeah. I mean, it has to be, everything literally needs to be even across the board, though. I mean, I'm not just talking about like, the scholarships. That's great. We can start there.
Yeah.
But to continue that, I mean, they're both doing the same sport. I can't possibly understand why you would have a fair system for just that gender. That doesn't really make sense. You know what I mean? I mean, literally everything, same training, same facilities, same, coaches. I mean, clearly not exactly the head coaches and things like that, but
but the same opportunities.
Yeah. In general, I mean, it's just so difficult to even together and talk about, but it's just like, how come that we're in 2021? How come that hasn't progressed forward yet?
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was crazy seeing them shed that light on, on that and the NCAA tournament, right? And the women were talking about the weight room facility that they had and the space that they had and what was going on. It's like, I know COVID has been crazy, but man, like for them to have to oust them like that, just to get the minimal, it was really eye-opening to see that.
Yeah. And I mean, what can you do? You can't really boycott. You cannot play.
So it's a big risk sometimes for whatever decisions that you have to make change. That's a fact. So it really sucks that, you get to your dream and then they treat you like crap and you're like, well, dang, I'm at my dream. I can't turn back now. And so it's a very tough pill to swallow. But take me through the life of a North Carolina State track athlete. What was some of the best experiences you had? Like, I know sports always gives us this platform, but while being an athlete, what was some of the great experiences you had?
I mean, this is going to sound corny, but alone the football games. I mean, those are one of the best memories, especially when we had Russell Wilson playing for us those 3 years. That was great for me to witness.
I was about to say, you were there for that, right?
Yeah. Like we had that really big game against Clemson 1 year, and it was crazy. We're in the rain. It was a moment. But those are definitely good memories I've made. I mean, I still talk to majority of my teammates that I had. You build crazy long relationships with people. I mean, and I'm back in Virginia, and we're, you know, spread out all over, but we're still like very close as a family. So I definitely cherish those things. I mean, we had a pretty nice, I guess you would say, like African American community there. We, you know, as far as frats and things like that. So parties were awesome. And we were all like the track team was kind of its own little sorority or fraternity, if you will.
Yeah, I tend to have that experience with my collegiate track running. Like, it's your own world with your track team. You're the only sport, and this is how we say it, we're the only sport performing all year round. Everybody else at least gets 6-7 weeks straight off. We don't. They like, you going home or you staying. That's because if you think about it, from August all the way down to June, you are performing in some stretch of the manner with track. So
absolutely,
definitely a family environment. So what do you think about as far as women? Well, what did sports do for you? How about I ask you that? What did sports do for you as an adult, as a woman? What has it taught you?
Absolutely. In general, it definitely taught me how to connect with people. Being an athlete takes a lot of dedication. So I have, I'm not running now, but I still make sure I'm in the gym 4 times a week. That takes a little bit of dedication when you get older and you don't really feel like going, because
Yes,
so it's definitely built a lot of determination. And I mean, that work atmosphere definitely helps out in any type of work environment, when I volunteer, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, no, I mean, and not to mention that while you were a collegiate athlete and you were, an athlete on the highest level at that time, you were also a student, right? So like, kind of put that in perspective, having to be disciplined and then prioritize, your life as a student athlete, right? Because a lot of people don't know, how strict that schedule is, or how busy you are, how tired you are at the end of the day, right?
I've stayed up so many nights till like 3 a.m. I wait right back and finish a paper, just simply because I was so tired or drained from that week or day. And I mean, it does take a lot of focus. And I'll be honest, at this point, I was on active probation because I could not figure out how to do at first. But I mean, thank you for a lot of schools have, counselors. There's different facilities that'll come together, that be through track or just academic in general, and they'll help you out. So that's a great thing in the sports world that you can take advantage of, because it does take, you're going from high school, you work whenever you feel like it. It's not that way in college at all.
One thing I'll say about a collegiate athlete is you can't just sit around and do anything. I mean, nothing in your adult life. Like, whatever you're going to do, it's going to take precedent to how you were as a youth, as a young adult, and then that carries forward. So that's kind of why I see it in the sense of, you don't have to run, but you're working out, you're keeping mindful. And a lot of people don't realize track. When you run track, they teach you how to eat. People don't, in football, it's like, hey, here's 5 meals right before the game. Yeah. Here's a half a hog. Here's, whatever you can get your hands on. But with track, it's like coach says, you have fried food today. I mean, it's a constant pecking. It's a constant pecking in a maturity of your body to develop as best it can while it's trying to become an adult. So I think we as track people have taken that forward, trying to implement it. Even if we do our little corner curves that we cut, if you don't run, guess who else ain't running? I ain't running either, but I'm telling you, I'm trying to eat at least right, in the sense so that I don't have to run just to push it off. But it's a process, and it's a grind that's appreciated when you're able to stay dedicated past college, past the time where you're not asked to do it and you choose to do it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real. Man, my high school track coach, he changed my diet forever. I don't even think he knew this. Like he was on me so much, trying to convert and trying to run distance. You know what I mean? He always told me he would come and look at what I had for lunch, and he would be like, "Yo, those fries, those cookies you got, and that soda, 2 out of 3 gotta go." And I've never drank soda since. That's the crazy part about that. Is just I was like, man, that dude was on me.
Yep.
Shout out Travis Ridley, bro.
Yep.
He was on me.
Coaches say things like, coaches see those items on your plate and he go, you got 3 choices. You can throw it in the trash, you can eat it and throw it up on the track, or or you could just think about it and eat half of it and take a gamble that some of it will hold down. Like it's one of them 3, but as a coach, you always knew what would trigger kids and how they acted. So it's just amazing that these habits that we used to think are nagging us, they always on us. Coach always asking us to be here, and now look at us as adults, handling ourselves accordingly in a professional world. So, that's why, Commonwealth Sports Talk and Women in Sports always try to stand out and give that shout out to those, because you're doing well in Richmond. You're doing well for yourself, for a young lady. So, we're very proud of you and your endeavors. So tell me about how you go back to NC State. What does that do for you because obviously it's grown or changed, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So how does it feel to go back and see it grow and then yet still have some memories on one corner or one area? Like it's like a whirlwind of feelings, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it is. It can be a lot, especially, you're looking at buildings now where there used to be nothing there, or it used to be a library and now it's an apartment building. So it's like you go back and you're like, oh my goodness, all these upgraded things. But of course it always looks really nice. And you're always thinking back like, man, how come they couldn't do this when I was here? Low key.
That's the number one college thought right there.
Right. I was like, you guys get all this nice stuff. Where was that?
Yep.
But it's always fun. Going back for homecoming or anything like that in general. Our other community has Pan-African. Like it's a great time. And then of course COVID happened. So
I know it hurts because I remember talking to you previously about homecoming, and you was just like, it's the best. I love it. And I'm just looking through you like, yeah, I know. Like mine is good. I love mine at Virginia State. You're a Division I ACC college. Let's talk the real talk. That's got to be the town shutting down. Like that's got to be like people throwing toilet paper on trees, and it's just they're smiling. Old folks walking through the neighborhood smiling. I remember when I used to do that. Like that's the type of environment I am picture with a like football strong homecoming for a good college. So I'm sure those events are lovely.
Yeah, definitely. They were definitely a lot of fun. You get the tailgating, all of that stuff. You know, whatever you want to call it, pre-gaming or what have you. So, it was all a good time. And then just to reunite, even to go back and see coaches, that's always fun too.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to see that they still have coaches there, because in college, boy, every 4 years, it's a whirlwind of change. So
yeah,
that's good. What about any messages for young ladies that are looking and struggling with trying to find themselves through sports? What do you think you would say to one that's doing that? Like a 10-year-old that's pretty good in track, but not confident in herself. How does that confidence become carried over from sports to real life?
I would honestly say just have fun. You have to have fun. The more that you're focusing on it and how tough it can be, and, maybe I didn't get that step right, or, I didn't get this time well enough to come out of the blocks. If you think about it too hard and you stop having fun, that's when it gets to be a lot. So just have fun.
Yes. Yes.
That's some good advice right there.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose your why. You can't lose your why you started doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I think that's a great message to pass forward. A lot of times people get lost in the sauce, and it's the simple messages, and it comes from random people, because obviously the one that's the main message sometimes gets lost or, kind of goes in Charlie Brown mode. But, it's always that outreach as to why we do this and why we're doing what we do. So we appreciate your time, coming on for Women in Sports. Any shout outs, any words, any last thoughts, any comments for us?
Well, I just want to thank you guys in general for having me on. I think what you guys are doing with this is amazing, just because we don't get a lot of focus on it. So the fact that you guys are bringing that attention is pretty awesome. And of course, I want to shout out my Smith and my wonderful cousins.
Absolutely. And so look, you gotta hit me up after this goes off, because I got 2 photos, and I know you're photo friendly because I've seen you in action before with somebody else. So I got 2 that I'm gonna send to you, and I'm be like, if you don't have nothing better, I have to send this to my editor, and so I'm gonna give you the bit. Okay. I don't do that with everybody. I'll just be like, boom, here, boom, here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
That's how we roll. So we're good.
It's awesome.
Definitely. Well, thank you for coming on. Once again, this is Commonwealth Sports Talk, presenting women in sports. And we're just going to keep bringing them to you, man, time after time. Thank you for your time, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you.